let me introduce our guest presenter. Pamela is a co-founder of MYOB Moms, a company dedicated to helping women navigate work-life transitions and grow their careers. She is a career coach, a personal branding expert, an adjunct professor at New York University, a blogger on womenworking.com, and a mother of 2 teenagers. She also leads career seminars, workshops, and webinars for people ranging from undergraduates to moms to corporate executives. In February, she appeared on the Today Show, and she gave advice to 2 different women in 2 different circumstances. She has also co-authored City Baby, a best-selling parenting guidebook on having a baby in New York City. She is a graduate of nearby Brandeis University, and so straight from the train from New York City today, please help me welcome Pamela Weinberg.
Thank you all so much, and it's nice to be back in Boston. I have to say, I went to school right down the road. If we had a smaller group, I'd love to hear a little bit about each of you. I really enjoy getting to know my audience, so I'm hoping that when I'm done, you'll stick around and tell me all a little bit about yourselves. But sort of just to get an idea, how many of you here are currently engaged in a job search? Okay, how many of you are thinking about going back to work and have taken some time off? Okay, great. Just so I have an idea of what my audience is like, and I can give you, hopefully try to tailor my talk to the majority. So I'm going to talk about women re-entering the workforce, which I counsel women who are in this stage often, and it comes with a lot of challenges, but I think you'll be, for those of you who've been out of the workplace for a while, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what it takes to get back. So where to begin? So this is really your roadmap to re-enter the workplace, whether you're thinking about doing this a few years from now or currently actively involved in a job search. So you really want to think about, what's your objective? What do you want? Do you want to return to work full-time? Do you want to return part-time? Are you looking for a consulting deal? Think about what you want. And then you're going to do some research. Find your opportunities. Research different fields. You may have been an attorney in your past life or when you had your career, possibly before having children. You may have no interest in going back to law. What are you interested in? That's the big question. So what would you like to do? What fields? I'm sure everyone has some idea of, maybe 3 different industries they might be interested in. Do some research, informational interviews, LinkedIn, some websites, and I'm going to go through more specifics of that as we go on to the presentation. And you want to have an action plan. Even if you're sort of vague, I want to go back to work sometime, within the next 5 years. Make a plan, have a strategy. I find it really overwhelming, no matter what task you take on. If you're just looking at in the global, I want to go back to work, you sort of feel paralyzed. I don't even know the first thing to do, so I'm going to do nothing. So I totally get that. So even if it's taking a first step, like I'm going to look at LinkedIn and just sign up. I'm not even going to connect with anyone, but I'm just going to get on and see what it's all about. Or I'm going to take a webinar to learn how to use Excel, because I know I'm going to need that in whatever job it is. Just to take a little step, whether you put aside, an hour a week or an hour a day to sort of, figure out what your plan is and how you're going to get to your goal of back to work. So some interesting facts about women in the workplace today. 1/3 of all college-educated women leave the workplace or seek part-time status at some point. Over 1/3 of women who return to work do not resume their prior occupation. I would even guess this is probably even a little higher. And the good news is 74% of women who want to return to work after a parenting break are successful at doing so. So that's really good news. The vast majority of people who want to get back to the workplace do so. And it's just, you're taking the steps to get there, which is what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about the job market today. I know for myself, I've been, as you heard from my bio, I've been an entrepreneur for some time. So if I had to go back to the corporate workplace today, I worked in advertising right out of college, I would find a very different place than I left. The workplace has really, really changed a lot, and those changes have really benefited women going back to work. So let's talk about a couple of things that have made this climate more favorable. Portfolio careers. So back in the day, thinking about, maybe when we graduated college or our parents graduated college, you really thought of a career as something you had for a lifetime. You were a company man or a company woman. That's gone. There's sort of, no such thing as like the, one job for your life or even one career for your life. The average woman has 10 different jobs in her lifetime. So I've had probably half a dozen, so I feel like I still have 4 more to go. So that's, that's pretty exciting. So, think about how many you've had, and, you're probably nowhere near 10 at this point, so that's good. It's exciting. You have a lot of time to plan and figure out what your future is going to hold. And a portfolio career means that you don't have to be only one thing. I'm a career coach. I'm also a blogger. I'm also a speaker. I'm a writer. So I have multiple careers. It's also called / careers. So you don't have to look at this as, oh my gosh, I need to pick one thing that I'm going to do from here on in. Leave yourself open to options. You may love photography. You may like writing. You may be able to do something that's going to combine multiple passions of yours in whatever your next phase is. Freelancers and consultants have become really popular ways for women to get back into the workplace. Companies love hiring consultants because they don't have to typically give them office space or health care benefits, so it works to their advantage, but it also can work to your advantage. It's very hard if you've been a stay-at-home mom or you've taken some time off. It's sort of a big leap to think of, having no schedule to having to be in one place every, Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. So getting, a consulting job or a freelance job may be a great way to sort of ease your way back into that type of routine. Diversity. Believe it or not, women are still considered diverse. It's a little sad at this point, but it is really true. And companies, especially Wall Street firms and law firms, if anyone was in investment banking or worked at a big law firm prior to taking some time off, they want you back. Companies, corporate America really feels the loss of women in management. So many women in high-powered jobs have found it really difficult to manage family and career. So companies are offering something called a returnship, which is sort of like an internship for adults, where they have like a 6-week program. You apply to get in. If you were, worked at Goldman Sachs before, Goldman Sachs will take you back. Even if you didn't work at Goldman Sachs before, but you're in an investment bank, you can apply to go. These programs don't cost anything. And they're all about career retraining. If you've been out of the workplace for however many years, you probably feel like your skills are a little rusty. You may have lost a step. Technology has certainly changed a ton. So these programs really offer the participants an opportunity to get up to speed on those industries. And it's a wonderful way to really get back into the workplace. And even if, I'll just mention, I think I mentioned this later, but even if you didn't work at one of those big firms, but are interested in getting back into an industry, I always tell clients, create your own returnship. Call a company, call a place that you've worked with before, have a connection, and say, I'd love to intern for 6 months or 6 weeks to learn the ropes. Who wouldn't want a smart, free talent, in their office? So I think that's a great idea to, just sort of figure out if you can do this on your own as well. Work-life balance. So even men these days are leaving work early to go to their children's soccer games, and it's not frowned upon, it's actually applauded. So work-life balance is definitely changed since many of us have been in the workplace. Companies understand that employees have a life outside of work, and they want their employees to be healthy and happy and stay at the company for a long time. So they are much more open to accommodations with work-life balance, and leading us into flexible opportunities, maybe work from home, telecommuting, job sharing. All of these options exist now much more than ever before. Finally, there's also a company that I want to tell you about called flexjobs.com. It's not on the slide. It's sort of like a new addition. And it's a subscription job service aimed at job seekers who want part-time and flex-time freelance jobs where they can telecommute. And I went on, and it looks great. They have lots of different opportunities for a variety of fields, so I would definitely suggest checking that out. Finally, here are some hot industries that are hiring now and are sort of evergreen or up and coming, where the jobs really are. And this is anything green, anything healthcare oriented, which has typically been recession proof, anything in technology, which may require you to getting some new skills. Nonprofit is also really big, and actually a great place for moms, I feel, because they typically are more flexible. And corporate responsibility, which is sort of a new-ish field, which is fabulous. Big corporations are really trying to give back, and it's an up-and-coming field where they're really hiring. So that's something else to look into as well. So before you go out to embark on your search, there are definitely some things that that you want to think about and work out. And these career transition challenges, I call them, are things that really every woman, every client of mine have faced one or all of these in their thoughts about going back to the workplace. Uncertainty. How am I going to do this? You know, and this is really a universal feeling. I'm not sure. I've been really comfortable. I've been happy at home. I don't know how I'm going to handle a commute. I don't know, if my skills are going to measure up. And that can really, as I said before, really be paralyzing, and we call those sort of limiting assumptions, things that you have in your head, like, I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it. No, just forget it. It's just not going to work. So, it's really sitting down with yourself and making a list and saying, really being honest, like, what are the things that are holding me back? What is it? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid of, childcare, not having adequate childcare? Am I afraid of commuting? Am I afraid that my skills don't hold up anymore? Am I saying to myself, which many of my clients do, why would anyone hire me? I haven't worked for 10 years. So those are very typical things that we have in our head. And it really helps to sort of sit down and figure out ways to dispel all of those limiting assumptions that we have. And hopefully by the end of the presentation today, I will have given you some tools to do that. Skill deficits. So sometimes, as I said, it's, the why would anyone hire me thing. Sometimes, you have real skill deficits, but they're fixable. Social media. Most jobs, if you were in marketing before and you want to go back into marketing or advertising or public relations, you're going to need to know how to utilize social media. You might not know now, depending on how many years you're out of college, how into technology you are. I didn't know anything about it until I became a career coach 6 years ago, and I am not the most technologically inclined person, and I took to it like a fish to water. It's easy, it's not hard at all, and I really feel that if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I'm going to give you some good tips and tools at the end of the presentation on how to learn more about social media and feel more comfortable, because that's one of the real skill deficits that people tend to be particularly worried about. any kind of other, technology, learning how to use an Excel spreadsheet, learning how to do a PowerPoint presentation, all of those things are real. If you don't know how to do it, you might know for a job. You want to learn before you go on a job search or an interview, so you feel confident. If they say, can you do PowerPoint? Yes. Can you do Excel? Yes. How do you learn how to do it? All of these programs have fabulous tutorials. You can do it at home in the comfort of your own house, on your own time. Webinars or tutorials. There's a great, most of the software themselves offer it, and then there's also a great website called Mashable.com, which is like social media and technology 101. They have blog posts on everything from like the most simple to the most complex usages of, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera. So that's a great one, a great website to look at. Discomfort being lower on the ladder. Many of us left corporate America at, a certain level. Maybe you were, a partner in a law firm. Maybe you were a director in an ad agency. And you've gotten off that track, and you're going back to work, and you're not going to be at the level you were at. You're just not. And I think that just comes with like a little bit of a gulp. You're like taking your medicine. Wow, I'm really not. And you might be working for somebody who's younger than you. So these are also things to think about. And it's sort of not easy. You're like, oh God, I put in so much time. I can't believe I have to come back at this level. But you typically will have to. So you need to just sort of wrap your head around it and say, it's okay, it's temporary, it's a foot in the door. And I always say to clients, again, who, because women can be so paralyzed with just taking that first step. And since you're going back, that job that you take has to be the perfect job. It doesn't have to be the perfect job. It has to be a job that's going to get you from your home to an office. It's one step. As I said, thinking back to my, every person has, 10 jobs in their lifetime. Don't feel like if you're taking this one step, that's it. You're making this one decision and you can never undo it. Look at it as a step in a continuum. It's going to be the first step to get you back into an office, and then you're going to build your career from there. So if you can help yourself to, dispel that, I think it makes the transition that much easier. Nothing's permanent. Salary goes along with that, being lower on the ladder, just realizing that, you may come back to work not making nearly as much money as you made when you left. Lack of infrastructure at home. This is a big one, and this is something that, a lot of women have, really struggle with, because if you've been a stay-at-home mom, and again, I don't know how many of you have been are stay-at-home moms right now, but I'm just sort of going with the fact that probably many of you are or had been. So you're probably pretty used to doing pretty much everything for your kids if you have a husband, spouse, partner who's working full-time. So you're, doing the carpools, you're doing the homework, you're doing, the baking for the bake sale, you're making sure the laundry's done so your kid has their soccer uniform to go to, practice that day. You really need to think about that when you're thinking about going back to work. You want to have all of that in place before you go on your first job interview. You don't want to go on the job interview and then think, oh my gosh, what if I get it? Like, who's going to drive my kid to school? Because that's going to show in the interview. You want to go in feeling like, I can take this job, and I'm ready to take this job. My home life is all set that I can take this job. So that means getting your husband, spouse, partner on board with you and supportive and in your corner, and whether it's figuring out a carpool, figuring out, childcare, after-school programs. Get it solved before you embark on your interview. You'll feel better, and it will show when you're facing your interviewer and you say to them, I really want this job. You can really mean it, and you're not going to be ambivalent saying, I want it, but like I kind of need to leave at 3:30 because that's when my kids get out of school. So you want to just project that confidence, like you have it under control, and you want to just make sure you have, as I said, everybody on board, your children too. I remember when I went back to work after I wrote City Baby, which was much more of an at-home job, and I became a career coach and worked at NYU and have an office. And I would leave to go to work, and my kids would text or call me, and they'd be like, Mom, you didn't answer your phone. I'm like, well, I was on the subway. I was like going to my office. I have a client. They were like, you know, they're so used to you being so accessible to them. So that was a real, that was a real change. So I had to really get them on board to understand that, like, this is what I'm doing now, and you need to sort of respect it. And you know what? They figured it out themselves. The questions that they called to ask me, they now, knew how to answer themselves by, becoming that much more independent, which really turned out to be a very good thing. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty of your job search, or thinking about your job search. So when we talked about our setting goals and figuring out our objectives, this is a first step. So you want to review your skills and interests. What do you like, and what are you good at? And a lot of people don't know or might not know, and I think women are so conditioned to say, like, I don't know, like, I'm okay, maybe, I might be able to do this, but I'm sure there's someone better, so I always say, like, ask your friends, what do you think I'm good at? You're the go-to person for something. You're excellent at something, and if you can't figure out what that is, ask people who are close with you, and they'll tell you. Oh yeah, you're the go-to person. Whenever I need to travel, you plan the most amazing vacations, you're so detail-oriented, you take amazing notes, you're a great resource. Oh, okay, so those are really good skills that I have. I wonder how I could apply those to a job. So sort of, figure out what you're good at, what you like. And that brings us to the next point. Just because you're good at something might not mean it's what you want to do for a living. You might be really good at math. You might be a great number cruncher. You might, know spreadsheets backwards and forwards, but you might never want to look at a spreadsheet in your life. So just because you're good at it doesn't mean that's what you want to do when you go to an office. So really think about that. So go through, your skills, your interests, and say, like, what am I good at? What do I like? What am I good at? What don't I like? What do I like, but I need to really get more skilled at? And that's where, sort of continuing education classes come in, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Okay, take stock of your priorities. These are your values. What's important to you in going back and getting a job? Oftentimes, flexibility is one of the main things that's important to women. They want a job or a career that affords them some sort of flexibility so that they do have time for family or other interests. Oftentimes when you want something that has flexibility, you're going to lose out on something where you can make a lot of money. So those two values don't always go hand in hand. So I recommend making a list of, like, the 5 things that are important to you, and really looking at those and saying, like, my next job, I want to make sure that all 5 of these values are there. Whether it's, I want to work in an office with a lot of people. I really want a job that's social. Or I want to work in a back office. I like to get my assignment, work by myself, and, be able to just do my job and leave. I want to work in a place that's within 15 minutes commuting distance. If that's a value for you, then you have to put that down and just make sure when you do your job search, you're not looking at companies that you're driving an hour away to get there. So those are sort of, some things to think about in taking stock of your priorities and values. And having these laid out will really help you with a much more directed, solid job search. Okay, assessment tools. If you're not sure what you want to do, and it's sort of actually kind of fun to do assessment tools, there are little, like, quizzes that you can do. Careerpath.com is a good one, and you sort of, answer all kinds of questions, multiple choice questions, and then they come back to you with certain ideas of what, what skills you have, what interests you have, and how they're directed into careers. So it might give you some ideas of, if you're not exactly sure what you want to do next, it's a great way to sort of see what, what a career assessment tool would tell you should be doing next, what they think you'd be good at. And oftentimes they match up. Sometimes they're completely off. So, you sort of have to take it all with a grain of salt. But it's a fun experiment in any event. My last point is really my favorite, I have to say, and that's to assemble a board of directors. And I actually started, I think, the slide talking about this, ask a friend what you're good at, and having a board of directors to see you through your job search is fabulous, because you're really going to have a team of people who are in your corner, who you can go to for advice, who are really going to be able to give you honest assessment and feedback on what your skills are, what they think you should be good at, keep you on track. If you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this great interview, and it's in Cambridge, and well, you don't want to commute an hour. Why are you getting an interview in Cambridge? That's someone who can really keep you on track with what your values are and what you're committed to. It's a great way to have, and it also kind of keeps you honest. If you're setting goals for yourself and you're going to share those goals, you want your board of directors to check in with you. So did you get on LinkedIn? Did you send out those resumes? Did you do that follow-up? Did you go to that professional association event? It's someone who is really in your corner, because a job search can really be lonely. You're sitting in your house, you're on the computer, you're like, nothing's happening, and you're sort of like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to do something else, or I'm never going to get something. So if you have people who are going to really keep you honest, it does help you move things along. It is really good to have someone to check in with. So setting goals. A personal mission statement will guide your career exploration. I'm very into personal branding, as Jean had said when she introduced me, and I think all of us have a brand, or are going to, sort of after today, we'll be thinking about what that brand is, and you might have a new personal brand that you sort of didn't have before from your previous career, and you're going to be creating something new, which is really exciting. And starting out with a personal mission statement will really help guide what your brand is. And really help you. Your mission statement will lay out your goals, your short-term goals, and then it's meant to be changed and updated. Every time you reach one of your short-term goals, you want to revise it, because it's never stagnant. It's always growing. My mission statement, changes all the time, and I'm always updating. Once I've accomplished whatever I've set out to accomplish that was in my mission statement, I'm writing a new one to set new goals for myself. And I definitely feel like I have a 2 to 5 year plan of where I want my business to be, and I never was that person before until I started really getting into branding and understanding the value and seeing the value. So I hope you all will see the value of it as well. Goal setters, by the way, enjoy up to 80% more productivity. So I'm big on setting goals, and I like to, sort of write them down. I'm a big list maker. So either, if you just have it somewhere where you can see it. I tell clients to tack up their mission statements on their computer so they can read it even on their refrigerator, put it in your iPhone. It sort of keeps you on track. So you can sort of know that this is what you're setting out to do, and really keep it narrow in scope. Again, we don't want that feeling of being so overwhelmed that it's paralyzing. So if you have your mission statement broken down, I like to do one with sort of 3 steps, 3 points. So it's pretty manageable. It's only 3. It's not 300. And once you've accomplished those 3, you're going to add 3 more. So let's take a look at a sample. Can you guys all read this, or should I read it out loud? I can read it if people in the back can't see so well. So this is a mission statement that I worked on with a client of mine who was a mom who was going back to work. And her mission was to obtain a position in development which will allow her to utilize many of the skills she's developed through volunteer work and through her former career as an attorney. She will do this by taking a class in nonprofit management, joining a professional association to network, and by obtaining a volunteer position at a nonprofit to gain experience. So I really like this mission statement because she really lays out, 3 very concrete things she can do to reach her goal. So this client was someone who was a serial volunteer. She volunteered like crazy, at her kids' school and at different community groups and boards. And through her volunteer work, she really raised a lot of money for all these institutions. She worked doing fundraising, whether it was working on school benefits or working in the development office. She did a great job doing that, and she has her background as an attorney, so she was very good public speaker, very good writer, very organized. She had a lot of those transferable skills from her attorney job that suited her very, very well for the development job. So she decided that's what she was going to do. She was going to get a job in a nonprofit organization as a fundraiser. And those are great jobs to have if you like doing fundraising, because people always want to hire someone who's a proven success at raising money, which she was, and she had a great track record. Despite the fact that her positions were all volunteer, it doesn't matter. Raising money is raising money. And we're going to talk about resumes as we go further, but your volunteer experience belongs on your resume. It's just as valuable as your work experience. If you've been out of the workplace for a long time and you've been volunteering, that's something that you certainly will have gained many skills that are valuable to employers. So that will go on a resume as well, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So she broke this down into 3 specific things she was going to do in order to make this job, this nonprofit job, a reality. She was going to take a class in nonprofit management so she could learn more about the ins and outs, the lingo, so when she went on a job interview, she could really walk the walk and talk the talk. She was going to join a professional association so she could network and meet other people in the field and hopefully get some informational interviews or even job interviews. And she was going to volunteer at a nonprofit. So she was going to maybe try to make her own returnship or go on to a website called idealist.org. Which I think comes up on another screen, but there are lots of websites that want really smart volunteers, and it's a great way to get your foot in the door someplace. Oftentimes volunteers do get hired, A, and B, it's a great resume builder. So those were her 3 ideas that she had, and hopefully, by looking at this, you can sort of think about what your mission statement can look like and what the 3 things you could do to make your job search, your job dreams a reality. And on the bottom, there's something by a resource that you can go look at to learn more about how to write your own mission statement. So you have your mission statement, you have your objectives, you know what your skills are. So you may have now some idea of what industries you want to work in or what types of jobs you would like. So this is when your research comes in. So here are a few resources that you can look at, which are really helpful. The first 2, the Occupational Outlook Handbook and ONET, have great sort of skills. You check off boxes with your skills and interests, and then it connects you with certain job families that based upon what you put into the system, it'll spit out what types of jobs they think would be good for you. And the information is much more extensive, what the salaries are in those kind of jobs, where the jobs are, what jobs they call them bright horizons are, what fields are hot fields, and it can be specific. You can do it by zip code, so it can be specific to your area. So these are both great resources. Some other good resources are vault.com and spotlightoncareers.com, where you can also research industries and potential career paths. One that was, I was reading this over on the train on the way up here, and I realized that another one that I wanted to tell you about that's not here is called glassdoor.com, which is another great website for people who are job seekers. And what I love about Glassdoor, as the name suggests, it really gives you an inside look at the companies, because the people who are posting about it are actual employees, are posting about what it's like to work at this company. So I think it gives really great advice about certain companies and industries. If you have your heart set on being a chef and you've never been a chef before, you can test it out through a website called Pivot Planet. Pivot Planet lists tons of mentors and 1-week internships. You have to pay for them, but that you could shadow a chef for a week in, whatever restaurant. He'll put his restaurant on there, and you can shadow him or her for a week to see what that job really feels like. And it's a great way, if you really want to test out a new career, it's a great way to get a test run and see what it's all about. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this before when we were talking about how some of our lack of confidence comes from not having some of the skills that we think we might need for our jobs. So here are some ways to get them. You want to look into classes or lectures in your interest areas. Lots of times community colleges have great continuing education programs, so that's a terrific place to look. Also, Y's and community centers. I know in New York, I speak at the 92nd Street Y a lot to women like you all to give career tips, presentation similar to these. I'm sure there's a place near you in Boston that offers similar continuing education classes for either to learn a specific computer program, to learn about how to use LinkedIn for business, or a variety of things. Certificate programs as well. There are even a lot of online classes that you can take to get certificates in a chosen field that is a credential that might not be like getting an MBA, but it's a credential where you're taking like 4 or 5 classes in one concentration. You have that certificate information to put on a resume, but really most importantly, it's such a confidence builder for you to really feel like you are learning this skill, you are learning these skills, you are getting the most current information about your chosen field, so that when you go on job interviews, you really feel much more confident to be able to talk the talk in whatever industry you're interviewing in. And I talked a bunch about getting, computer or technology upgrades. There are lots of webinars that can help you do that. LinkedIn, in particular, offers terrific webinars on how to utilize LinkedIn for job search. LinkedIn's fabulous, and I know BC is having something coming up on LinkedIn the end of the month that I would encourage you all to go to, because it's very hard in today's marketplace to get a job without being on LinkedIn. It's a must. So I'm going to talk about that more as well. I also want to mention MediaBistro.com. It's another good resource for classes. I'm actually taking a class through Media Bistro myself on social media marketing for small business, so I can learn more about how to utilize social media to build my business and build my brand. And they have, really like 101 classes, social media 101, 101 to like much more advanced. They have classes on blogging, anything that's sort of media related. Worth going on Media Bistro and just take a look. And they also, by the way, have great job listing site. So if you're interested in jobs in any of those fields, they have a lot of job listings as well as freelance jobs. So that's also another great way to get started. Volunteering. So smart volunteering is one of my favorite things, because I was really so bad at it. I liked people to learn from my mistakes. I was one of these people who was really a serial volunteer when my kids were younger and they were in preschool and ongoing school, and they'd say, like, who can do blah? And I would always raise my hand. So I was volunteering to do things that I was so bad at: baking, raising money, like the worst. So I realized, I really like volunteering. I really want to give back to the school, but I really want to volunteer, A, doing something that I like, B, doing something that I'm good at so I feel confident, and C, honestly, something that's going to like build my resume at least. If I'm going to spend the time volunteering, I may as well make it useful. So for my client who is volunteering doing fundraising, it was great for her because she wants a development job, so she really got it right. It took me a little while to get it right, but then I started blogging or writing the newsletter for my child's school, and I was so happy because here I am, a writer. I'd written City Baby, I blog a lot. It was the perfect job for me, and it was a credential. So I just want you to sort of think about that when you're taking volunteer positions. Take a position in something that you feel is going to suit you and build your resume. If you were a finance person, volunteer to do the accounting. If you were a lawyer, volunteer to do, some legal work. It's a great way to build your resume and give back at the same time. In addition, I have had many clients, who have started out in volunteer positions and have gotten hired full-time. This is a very common occurrence. So I encourage you, one of my clients was a photographer, and she took off time to have her children and wanted to go back to do something in the art world. She knows a ton about art. So she decided she really wanted a job at MoMA, but she didn't feel she was qualified. She decided to take a volunteer position at MoMA. So she started out volunteering 1 day a week, then 2 days a week, then 3 days a week. Sure enough, after a year and a half of volunteering, she's now working there full time. She was always the person who said yes. She was great at her job. They saw she wasn't a kid. She was a really bright 45-year-old woman who was extremely competent and knowledgeable. And a job opening came up, and she got it. Another woman volunteered at my children's school. She would do admissions tours. She would talk to potential prospective parents. Unpaid position. She was really good at it. People really liked her. She had a great personality. A job came up in the admissions office, and she got hired. So these things really do happen. So I know sometimes we feel like, I don't want to volunteer, or it's such a waste. I really want to get a paying job at this point. Think about volunteering as really a way to get a paying job. It really does work. I've seen it work many, many times. Okay. Networking. Okay, so my first thing is do it. So networking, it's hard. We think about networking and we're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about myself. I don't want to go to a place where I have to network. You should just know that 80% of all jobs are gotten through people that we know. That's a really big number. So we talk about spending a lot of time, and I've talked so much about spending time on the computer, on LinkedIn, and Googling things, and looking at these websites. Really got to be out of your house meeting people. There's only so much you can do that's on the computer. You really want to put yourself into places where you can network. And you can network on the sideline of your child's soccer game, and you should be. I think what tends to happen with women, especially, who haven't worked or maybe starting this search, you're sort of reticent to talk about it. You think of yourself as like I'm Johnny's mom. If someone says, what do you do? Well, I'm a mom. Get used to saying, I'm looking for a job in marketing where I can utilize my skills in blah. Or I'm currently taking a class, I'm getting a certificate in financial planning, and I'm looking to get a job in a financial planning company. Get used to how that sounds. Practice on people that you know, practice wherever you go, cocktail parties, school events, do it here tonight. Practice on people that you know, because oftentimes those people that we know best don't know that we're looking for a job because they just think of you as, their friend. You don't know whose husband, whose sister-in-law, whose brother-in-law may be the exact person you need to talk to get the job that you want. So make sure that you are vocal about it and always doing it. You're going to memorize your 2-minute pitch. You're going to have your spiel. So when someone says, what do you do? You're going to have your answer. I'm looking for a job in whatever that is. And I'm taking a class in whatever it is, and I've been volunteering at the museums to get more experience in the art world. Let people know. The more people you tell, the more you increase your chances of getting a job and getting an interview. Carry business cards with you. And this may sound silly if you don't have a job, but it's really important, and it professionalizes your job search. So there's a website a company called Vistaprint.com. You can get free business cards, or for nicer ones, it's like $15. It's like nothing. And just have your name, your email address, and your phone number. That's it. So that if you're at a networking event or at an event like this, you'll be able to say hi, I'm Sarah. I'm looking for a job in marketing where I can utilize my writing skills. And I'd love to keep in touch with you. Do you have a card? And you get their card and you give them yours. And when you say, I'd love to keep in touch with you, really keep in touch with them. Remember, when you walk away, even write a note on the back, who the person was, where you met them, because I know what happens is you'll get a stack of cards. You'll be like, who is this person again? Where did I meet them? So just remember, after every meeting, get the card, send an email the next day, nice to meet you, remind them something about your conversation, and again, remind them what you're looking to do. And this is all about informational interviews. It's such an easier ask than saying, here's my resume, do you have a job? Because here's my resume, do you have a job, is there a yes or no answer? Yes, I have a job. No, I don't have a job. Your conversation's done. In my opinion, a better way to do it is, I'm really interested in what you do. I know you've been in marketing, for 10 years. I'd love to learn more about what you do. Could I buy you a cup of coffee? Or can I come up to your office and, and see what it's like? People typically love to talk about themselves. They're so happy, and especially I love what I do. And if anyone wants to call me to talk about what it's like to be a career coach, I'm ecstatic. I love to talk about it because I love it. I would never say no. And I find that most people are that way. I had a client who was, she worked at MTV actually. She was a stylist, and she wanted to teach fashion at a fashion college in New York. And she blindly, on LinkedIn, picked 50 people who had the job she wanted, wrote to them. 5 answered her, and she said, I'd love to take you to coffee to learn. 5 answered, and 1 hired her. So people really do want to help. So just remember that. Do have your ask. It's very important when you go to any networking event to have your ask. Professional organizations are, again, great places to meet people and to network. If you're interested in, in marketing or in finance, there's tons of organizations, all over the Boston area, Women in Finance, or, all different finance organizations that you can find that have great events, classes, webinars, networking mixers, and just make sure that when you go to a networking event, it's not all job seekers. You want to make sure that events you go to have a mixture of people who are employed and people who are looking for jobs, if you can, sort of get that info. I also recommend, connecting on LinkedIn after you've met someone. It's a great way. It's just sort of a great practice to get into, to send your follow-up email to them as a LinkedIn connection. It's just, sort of a great practice to get into. Okay, and I'm watching my time, and I still have a lot to go, so I'm going to try to go a little faster. Okay, so before your first meeting, so now you've done your networking, you have your contacts, you're ready to go to your first meeting. So you're going to have your 2-minute pitch. That's your personal mission statement will come into play here, and as I said, you're going to practice. You're going to practice on the line at Starbucks. You're going to practice at the soccer field. You're going to practice at cocktail parties, really talking about who you are and what you want to do. Know your brand. Look the part. You want to make sure if you're going out, you're going to a place where you could potentially be meeting people who are in a position to help you. You want to look professional, so it may be you may want to update your wardrobe a little bit from when you worked previously. Business cards we talked about, resume, and hopefully some of you brought your resumes tonight because we're going to have an opportunity for our crack team of professionals to look them over. Very quickly, there's sort of two kinds of resume. One is chronological, which is the kind that most of us had when we graduated college, which is you're listing your job experience from most recent to least, with your education on the bottom. What a lot of my clients have, and a lot of women going back to the workplace have, is something called a skills-based resume, which focuses less on the specific jobs and years that you had those jobs. Those are sort of at the bottom, and what's really at the top of the resume talks about your skills and accomplishments. So those skills and accomplishments can come from a job that you had or a volunteer position that you had. Lots of different options. So I really like the idea of a skills-based resume for women who've taken some time off to go back to the workplace. You also want to line up some references, and this is before you go on a first job interview. People are going to ask for references typically. You want to make sure you sort of have them in your back pocket, that you've called two people you've worked with before and said, hey, I'm starting on this job search. Would you feel comfortable if I utilized you as a reference? And I like to send clients into their first meetings with clean copies of their resume printed, and even some copies of their references printed as well. So if people want them, you can just hand it to them. Typically we can email, but it's nice to bring them. It makes you feel really buttoned up and prepared for your interview. Okay, get into social media. And I know Stephanie is going to talk more about this as it pertains to BC, who offers a lot social media for you all. But I'm going to just give you an overview on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for job search. So the first thing you want to do is Google yourself, because that's the first thing that any potential employer is going to do when you walk through their door. They will have Googled you before you get there. What are they going to find? You want to know, because if they're going to find it, you want to know, what it's going to be. So that's your personal brand at this point. When somebody Googles you, that's your brand. So what I love about branding so much is that you're really able to change that and make that what you want it to be. Really brand yourself by blogging, by posting articles, by being active on LinkedIn, by being active on Twitter. All of those things are the things you want to rise to the top of any Google search about you. If somebody Googles me, they're going to find my website, PamelaWeinberg.com, or my LinkedIn profile, which are the two things that I want them most to see about me, because they're things that I control. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why, to me, having a great and strong LinkedIn profile is super important for a job searcher. So some people find social media to be intimidating or overwhelming, and after I finish talking about it, honestly, you probably will too, so I'm just telling you beforehand, pick one and commit to it. If you say, I really like LinkedIn, do LinkedIn. Don't worry about the other two right now. If you think, I really like Twitter, I really understand the applications of it, pick Twitter. Know how to use all three, but really you only have to commit to one. That should be sufficient. So LinkedIn, you want to have a great profile. You want to have a photo that's professional. You want to be dressed professionally. You don't need a professional photo. Anyone can take the photo, but you should be dressed professionally for the photo, I should say. You want to have a killer professional summary. That is your brand. That is really how you describe who you are and how you got there. You're going to weave together your story based on your personal experience, what maybe your education, based on your past jobs, included with your volunteer experience, and really weave together a story of who you are and what you're looking for. Your mission statement also comes into play here. You want to have a descriptive headline under your name, so people know who you are and what you're looking for. And you want to have recommendations for past jobs or past volunteer experience. The rule of thumb is one recommendation for each job that you have listed. You want to connect with former bosses, colleagues, and peers. You want to follow companies that you'd like to work for, so you get constantly updated if they're posting new jobs or new information about the companies. LinkedIn has a fabulous search feature where you can search for jobs by zip code, by salary, through your connections, who's connected to which companies. They have, terrific search features. And as I said, LinkedIn happens to do a fantastic job with their webinars. So if you really want to get a taste of how to do LinkedIn 101, they have LinkedIn 101 webinars. And you can go on at any time. You don't have to sign up for it. They're archived. They're usually about 45 minutes to an hour long, and they're excellent and really will take you through how to utilize all of the features. You also want to join groups on LinkedIn. Groups are a great way to sort of learn about your industry and be able to ask questions. So I'll give you a quick example. When I became a career coach 6 years ago, I was deciding what kind of accreditation I needed to get or what kind of coaching certificate I was going to get. So, because I really didn't know. I didn't know anyone who had this job. So I joined a career coaching, a LinkedIn career group consortium through LinkedIn groups, and I posited the question to the group. And I got back the most fabulous responses from people who were career coaches who really told me the pros and cons of each of these certificates. So it's just a great way to get industry information and really stay very current or feel very current in an industry that may be new to you. I find the groups super useful. And a lot of times groups also list jobs. Facebook. So I'm assuming many of you are on Facebook, and sort of the same thing I said about your friends and neighbors on the soccer field. A lot of your friends on Facebook are people who you might not have seen since elementary school. They have no idea what you're doing now or that you're looking for a job in marketing. So I always say, throw it up there in your status. You never know what's going to happen. Someone can be like, oh my gosh, my company is hiring, or we have an opening on our Boston office, or my brother-in-law works in a marketing company in Boston. I'm sure you could talk to him. I get as many clients through my Facebook page as I do through my LinkedIn profile. Because I tend to post my things on Facebook as well. I use my Facebook for pleasure and for business. It's a mix. So if I'm speaking at BC tonight, I'll say, hey, any BC alums out there? I'm speaking at BC tonight. And even if there aren't, it lets them know, oh, you know what? I work in career services, or maybe Pamela would want to speak at my school. It just sort of puts it out there. It's another avenue for you to get information out there about yourself. And your contacts on LinkedIn are always different than your Facebook contacts, which is great. So it's like typically a whole separate population. If you are going to use Facebook for business, and I'm sure most of you know this, you want to make sure that your privacy settings are good. You're not posting any inappropriate photos. And just Facebook has changed the privacy settings a million times. So just like tonight or tomorrow, just go back and make sure your settings are what you want them to be, that people aren't going to be able to see things you don't want them to see on your page. Okay. Twitter. I happen to love Twitter for job search. I think it's fabulous. And I was one of these people who was paralyzed by Twitter. I was like, what am I going to say? I have nothing to say. Who cares that I'm having a cup of coffee this morning? So I realized that for me, starting out anyway, Twitter was really more about who I was following. I wanted to, become an expert in personal branding. So I started following all people who talked about personal branding. I work a lot with career services in universities, so I started following career services people. If you don't know who to follow, but you know what industry you want to follow, there's a great website called Listorious.com, which lists every industry and the top tweeters in every industry. So even if you're not using Twitter to actually tweet, it's great to follow people. You get such up-to-date information. And I always say to clients, you're the smartest candidate in the room when you go on a job interview and you've just seen on Twitter that the FDA just approved this new drug this morning that hasn't even been announced yet except on the company's Twitter feed. And here you are at an interview at Pfizer and you're able to say, oh, I saw that bloody blood just got approved. Oh my gosh, how do you know that? Well, I follow you on Twitter. You're very smart. You're very current. For those of us who are older and have been out of the job market for a long time, it makes you feel current and up to date just being able to follow people on Twitter. It's super easy. And I do tweet all the time now, and I sometimes tweet original material, but more often than not, I will retweet other people's fabulous material. They are great articles on branding. Everything I do is career coaching or branding, or women, typically. So follow me on Twitter if you're on Twitter. It's at Pamela Weinberg. And I'll follow you back if you're on it. Final tips. I'm sorry I went over for like 5 minutes, but I'm wrapping up. Okay, so your final tips for reentry. You want to set goals. I talked about goals. They're super important. Without goals, you don't know where you're going. So you really need to set goals and make yourself, stick to them by your board of directors or your list that you make for yourself or your mission statement. Be accountable. Update your mission statement when your goals have been met. And you want to manage your time. Really set aside the time. Even if you have to block it off in your calendar, okay, every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to 2 is my work time. Block it out, don't make a lunch date, don't vacuum your house at that time. Just say this is the time that's my time to look for a job, because we know how that time just goes. And you end up, Googling something, and then before you know it, the time's gone and you haven't really gotten anywhere. So whether it's setting aside a time to actually work at your desk or setting aside, one night a month to go out to a networking event or take a class, just make sure that you put that time aside. If you do both of those things, you will get the job you want, and if you need additional help or have any questions, please feel free to contact me. That's my email address, that's my website information, that's my Twitter, as I said, and I'd love to, to talk to you all further. And please also connect with me on LinkedIn. Speaking of LinkedIn, good segue for Stephanie. So Stephanie I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, who's the social media guru here at BC, and she's going to tell you about what's going on here, how to connect. Oh, and then we're going to have questions after Stephanie.
First, let's just give Pamela a big round of applause. Thank you so much. I've lost my voice, so we're going to try to get through this. So before I kind of dive into a little bit about LinkedIn, I will do a little on Twitter. I have about 10 minutes. Real quick, show of hands. Can any 1970s alumni in the room? 1980s? There we go. 90s? 2000s? 2010s? All right. These people are all on social media. I promise you, and they're all on the LinkedIn group. So if you're like, I don't know if I'm really supposed to be there, a gentleman from the class of 1960 won my trivia contest on Facebook. So you ladies are not alone. There's a bunch of folks out there. So if you think it's beyond you, I promise you they're all there. So I just want to show you a couple of quick things. We'll go into my profile real quick. That's me. There it is. So you can see there's, this is what Pamela was talking about. This is where you could say looking for a job, doing those types of things. And then I have my little summary. I like to make this very first person. I think that just makes you a human being. Third person is professional, but I think it just shows you kind of more things. And you can see on there, I added a little something personal, like I make a really good anise cookie. People are going on here to see if you're a fit for their culture as well as their company. So company culture comes into play, like, oh, you and I both like Ethiopian food. We could go out. We'd have a relationship. Some things of that nature. So don't be afraid to go a little more personal. It's completely okay. LinkedIn is trending that way. So feel free to do that. And like Pamela said, I've had a really weird job timeline. I have a master's in philosophy. I do social media. I can tell you about how that happened, but I kind of highlight it here. You can add, if you've been published, where am I? You can add publications. So there's the volunteer experience, if you want to add it there. But there they are. So I've had a couple of publications, online articles, blogging, and I put them up there. When something goes live online, I update my LinkedIn profile. It's a really good habit to get into and something I recommend you all doing. But I wrote a lot for care.com. That was the previous company I was at. So you can see I've added them all here. And I had one recently for BC, and that's there as well. So in terms of what Boston College has on LinkedIn, if you all go in and search Boston College Alumni Group, there we are. So this is the BC Alumni Group as it loads. There, is it going? All right. So basically this is a discussion board. People are talking. Nick Irons has this great thing, who's on Twitter? So you can connect with other alumni on Twitter. Other people are talking about, like I put something about social media, questions about, bullying month. So just different conversations. The cool thing about this group, and if you do need to join, it would show right here. So you just press the button to join. There are jobs. 2 ways to find them. Again, technology keeps my patience in check. I'll tell you that much. All right. Here are the actual job postings. These are done by LinkedIn. This is actually $200 for a company to post an official job posting. Not everyone has that kind of money. So if you look over here in job discussions, this is a person who put as her status that they're hiring and wanted to share that discussion to the group. So don't be afraid to look here. These are postings you might be interested in, and it's a cool way to kind of talk about different things going on without actually posting a job. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing I want to show you is the Boston College company page. So you have to search Boston College. Bunch of things are going to come up. Do not click on this. Go over here to companies. Click there. Boston College. So I actually manage this page, and this is really career advice 101. I tend to spend a lot of time on Media Bistro, Forbes, Daily Muse. The Daily Muse has really quick articles you can read, like 4 ways to do X, 14 ways to improve your email. Just really quick tips, when you're just like, all right, I need to read something before I, pick up Susie from ballet. It's a good site to check out. They have free webinars as well. I definitely recommend it. But I usually will post it down here. 14 bad habits that could cost you your job. 43 resume tips. So this is a great place to check out if you're looking for those quick tips. And you'll also see on here internal job postings at Boston College if you do want to come back to BC. So they are down here. There it is. So that's another resource to look at. And let me any questions on LinkedIn? Because I will have a guinea pig come up. Anyone on LinkedIn? Ma'am in the green shirt, can you come up for a second and log in? I want to show you, anyone else want to log in? All right, so you might actually be okay. All right, we'll see. The reason I want to do this, Pamela mentioned personal branding. People are Googling you. I Google myself all the time. You can go ahead and log in. So what you want to be aware of is the fact that you can actually own your name on LinkedIn. Oh, nope, this one. Oh. Sorry.
Thank you.
You can own your name on LinkedIn. So when, so if you see right there under it says LinkedIn/Stephanie St. Martin, that's me. I grabbed that URL. No other Stephanie St. Martin will have that. They'll have to add a 1 or 2 or something to make it theirs. So what we're going to see is if Rachel has owned her name. It's the easiest trick. It helps you so much in Google search because then when somebody Googles your name exactly, they'll be able to say, oh, there's your LinkedIn profile, and it's going to come up closer to the top. And that's what you want in job search. My Facebook occasionally comes up, so let's go to your profile. My Twitter comes up, but if I'm job searching, you want LinkedIn. That's where the good stuff is. Oh, you have not claimed it. Great, you're a great person.
Okay, good.
So basically, this is what I'm talking about. See all this junk? It's not her name. It's a big, long URL that nobody's going to memorize. And if you are making a business card, you could easily add / whatever on LinkedIn, and somebody could look you up that way too, especially if you're not connecting with people. It's a great thing to add. So what we do is we press Edit Profile, and you will see here, Edit. We're going to click on it. Your current URL. Customize your public profile URL. It's the best thing you can do. So why don't you just try typing in your name all as one word to see if we can claim it. Sometimes you get lucky, people don't know about this, so if you have a common name, you might be able to get it, which is like Christmas morning. Nope. All right, so somebody already has that. So let's try adding your middle name. Would you like that?
Can I try Rachel C?
Yeah. She's getting all official.
I
Oh,
am.
You got CW.
Yes, that's good.
That's what you want? So
Yeah,
set it.
Perfect.
So now she can tell people, oh, it's just /in/Rachel CW Casey. So much easier than search for me in LinkedIn. You now have a URL that you can use. My favorite tip, so I feel like I've educated you all on LinkedIn. Shall we move to Twitter? All right, I'm trying to be, Jean, how am I doing? She could change that if she wants to later. I changed Stephanie St. Martin to Steph St. Martin, trying out a new nickname. So I changed it up, but I actually switched back because when people Google me, they do Stephanie St. Martin, and I wanted to make sure I had a handle on that as opposed to the other one. So yeah, thank you. All right, so Twitter. And this is just really quick. Most of you have those yellow cards. I call them the social media postcard. That is how you can get a hold of me. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My job is to help you, so don't hesitate. I'm happy to help. And again, like Pamela said, if she can learn it, anyone can learn it. I have a master's in philosophy. If I can figure this out, you guys can, because philosophy is easy, compared to some of this stuff when you get in the weeds and you get used to it. It's learning a new language. So this is the BC Alumni Twitter account. Nope, nobody gets my password. And what I've been doing is hashtag Hire Eagles. These are job listings that I've found that I've been just letting the alumni know about. So you can search Hire Eagles. You'll see other people are getting, look at this. Somebody used it. I got all excited. But you can really see that slowly but surely people are letting other alumni, BC alumni, know about these jobs. Now, if you want to be, I'll be completely honest, I stole this from Syracuse. So if you want to search Hire Orange or Hire, Tide, you'll see other colleges that are doing this. Gives you a better leg up on your job search. But this is being done. So if you're ever like, oh, I wonder what we could find on, Twitter, that's what's going on. The last thing is every morning between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m., I tweet out career advice. It's part of my routine. So what did I do this morning? Let's see. I was pretty active today. There we go. 5 tips for networking on a budget. You can see it's from Daily Muse. You click on the link, and you can get tips about that. So 8:30 and 9:30 every morning, if you just want to go on Twitter and listen, not really tweet, maybe retweet your favorite folks, keep an eye out for me. It will always happen every day. And it's just stuff I think the alumni will appreciate, maybe use, something to start the day off right before you get into the office. I think that's it for me. Any questions for Pamela or myself? Is that quick? Go ahead.
I'm not on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Is there a difference when you set up a Twitter? Does it need to be as perhaps professional as you would be on?
It makes it, Twitter makes it super easy to make it look great. They have all these backgrounds. It's really easy. You just want to upload a photo of yourself probably, or if you have, a logo or something that you like, just do customize it. If you don't customize it, they have this like weird egg thing. So just make sure you customize it to something, but you can do, it makes it super easy. It's much easier. As far as communicating with people on it?
Yeah.
I mean.
You go on.
I find, for myself personally, I like to stay very much within my brand. Like, I'm not going to talk about the fact that, like, the Giants haven't won a game all year. Like, I'm going to be very, very, like, strict to my brand. and not use a lot of jargon, so I feel like you still need to maintain a very professional tone, especially if we're looking for a job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, for me as BC alumni, completely different language. I mean, social media is all about conversation. So I really try on the alumni account to engage folks, have them respond back, tweet out different things. As Steph St. Martin, which it's so weird talking third person, but as my normal Twitter account, I'm Stephanie. So I'm going to talk about the Red Sox and I'm going to talk about certain things, but I still work at Boston College, so you will see that censored self, if you will. Does that make sense? I think it's okay if you love a recipe, tweet it out, let people know.
Get a sense of, I'm so out of touch with that.
Yeah.
You know what you should do, honestly, before you even go on it? Just start following people.
Yeah.
You're really going to get it. You'll really follow people who are like you. Follow me, follow Stephanie, follow other friends of yours who are on it. Go on to that Listorious.com and, search people who tweet a lot. And you'll see, like Martha Stewart typically tweets about recipes and homeware, but her iPad broke last week and she had 100 tweets about her iPad. Like it broke and it shattered and I was so upset. And, it was like so you'll really sort of get the sense. I don't feel you'd have to jump in with both feet. I definitely stood back and watched before I really entered.
This is followerwonk.com. It's a great way to search people's Twitter bios. So just so you all know, if you're on Twitter, I have done the search of BC alum because I'm determined to hunt you all down. Determined. So this, when I search it, comes up. There are people connected who are Boston College alumni. So if you're into, searching for different things, different industries, I highly recommend. It's a free site. It's a free tool. Searching, marketing or career coaches, Boston College, anything you like, and that way you can start building up who you're following. You can also make Twitter lists. So one of the things I have is I've created these lists, and it just helps me organize things. So if I wanted to see what I've made so many. But if I wanted to see what other alumni associations are doing, I just have to click on the list, and then there's the feed of what they're doing. And otherwise that would all be jumbled in, but this is one place. So you can make a list of all marketing experts you want to follow, click on your list, and then you can get your updates for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever that may be. Yeah, no worries.
Yes.
Question for you, Pam. In terms of contacts and network, I'm a former music industry refugee, more specifically record business, the 75 Rock, New York, the whole thing. And we all kind of got scattered. And, downloaded the whole thing, the whole industry changed.
Right.
So a lot of us scattered around the country and had lives and married and all this stuff. And so I kind of lost contact with those people, and as social media was growing, I felt very intrusive, what kind of fun, what's your, sister up to?
Right.
So I found that kind of intrusive. So
Mhm.
I stayed on the down low, communicate on these. The problem is when I see LinkedIn and things like that, I very much want to reach out to people, but I feel like it's almost not the better way of putting it. Like using them, hi, I haven't talked to you in 10 years, but what if you could, recommend me on LinkedIn? Or how do you kind of bridge that kind of, you haven't seen people and then you're bam online?
I think you want to be as honest and transparent. I think that's a big part of utilizing social media, is just really be yourself, be authentic. Hey, I've been out of the industry for 10 years. I know we've lost touch. I hope you're well. I see you working at bloody blah. I'm really, ready to go back, to get back into the industry. I'd love to chat with you about what you're doing now and catch up. Can we set up a time to talk? Just be really honest. And you're not asking for a job. And I think that's a big sticking point for people, is that they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm asking them for a job. They're going to say, no, you're just saying, I want to catch up and I want to learn more about what you're doing now. It's a much easier ask.
Gotcha. And even if people are comfortable with, say you're going for a job in a completely different industry, to get, because it's that one for every job.
Right.
Had a lot of long periods and then jumping around.
Right.
And so getting a one for every job and
it's not a hard and fast rule. You know, if you have even volunteer experience or other experience that's more current, get recommendations that way too. It doesn't necessarily need to be. If a job is, 15 years ago and you want a different industry, it's not going to really be as relevant. So don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on that. It's a hard and fast. Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally understand that.
Respond?
Yeah.
So one recommendation I have is do an endorsement on LinkedIn to start out. So a lot of people do you guys know what I'm talking about by endorsements? No? Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
So these, you're still in, Rachel? I hope. I'll sign you out. Useless to me, Rachel. No, you were perfect for that because I was like, I don't know. That's what happened before. So basically when you go on LinkedIn, you can put down your skills. I'm good at this or that. I have SEO, I have social media, and I've listed them, and then people have added them. They'll be like, so-and-so recommended you for training. Okay, I'll add it to my profile. So here's it down here. Now, if I wanted to, people are all about, you be an endorsement queen. Anytime you see that and you can give an honest endorsement, give it. There's a good chance they'll give it back to you. It kind of starts the door of conversations open because it's a light recommendation. So I'll get my friend Danny. So if we go to Danny's profile, it's going to ask me almost automatically, or not. It usually does automatically. Does Danny not have skills? Oh, there it is. Oh, I've done most of them. See my little face? But it would ask me, does Danny have this skill? And I can +1 it and, add that skill. And once you do one, it will ask you to do more people. Yeah. Yeah, that's the same thing as, if you wanted to do in a little message to someone, hey, I've added this skill to my profile. Would you mind doing an endorsement? But usually when you do an endorsement for someone, 9 times out of 10, they'll return the favor.
So this thing of endorsement makes me a little bit nervous because I have a lot of friends that have endorsed me on skills that they really don't know if I can do it or not.
Yeah, I mean,
And so then I start getting concerned because I'm getting endorsed so much for certain skills that, like, I'm not even interested in pursuing jobs that use those.
Yeah.
So what do you, like,
So there's 2 things. When someone endorses you, they can remove their endorsement. So you could go back to a friend if you have a good relationship with them. Would you mind actually putting it here? It's weird, but if you're, really don't want that skill showing, you can. I mean, I have, that's Danny's, but I have some weird ones up top that I'm like, I have like writing, and then I have 2 writing ones.
recommendations, definitely, real recommendations. Can you
Yep.
can you show his recommendations?
Yep.
If he has.
I don't know if Danny does. I know I do.
Recommendations from people with whom you've worked carry a lot more weight than endorsements. Because I think everybody knows what you just said about endorsements. People endorse me all the time for career counseling who I've never met with.
Here we
Like,
go.
how would they know that I'm, So
These are mine. This is mine.
okay.
Do I have
So
one there?
these type of endorsements, recommendations carry a lot more weight. I think we have time for one last question, then we're going to break up into our groups. Yes.
about LinkedIn, what's your recommendation on connecting with people? Do you feel you need to know them to connect? Do you recommend asking someone who knows to introduce?
I definitely think you want to start out connecting with people who you know. If there's somebody that you are, really want to connect with, and you see that you have a first-degree connection with them, and it's someone that you're comfortable asking, you certainly can ask them for the recommendation. But, definitely if you're starting out, best to start out with people, people that you know.
I think when you do honesty, like Pamela said, honesty is the best policy. So I've had people request me, I don't know them, but they're like, hey, I'm actually interested in learning about social media, would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, maybe ask you a couple of questions. Very upfront and honest. I'm more likely to do that than the blind one that says, I want to add you to, I'm like, who are you? So I think when you're really upfront and honest, goes a long way.
Thank you all for being such a great audience, and we're going to break up into our groups, but first we're going to, That's great. We're happy to. Okay.
Thank you very much.